Exposed, the sinister French doctor behind 100 haunted souls and a cursed legacy of terror. Rachel's heart raced as she swung open the diner's door, the familiar jingle of the bell swallowed by the dense darkness of the night. Maplewood, with its twisted trees and houses draped in shadows, felt suffocating tonight. Behind the counter, the greasy smell of burnt coffee and desperation wafted around her like a suffocating blanket. She had to juggle her worries about Jake and Lily while facing the weight of her boss's scrutiny. But tonight was different. The usual chatter of late-night regulars fizzled out, replaced by an unsettling murmuring about Dr. Henri Dubois, a doctor whose very name sent chills down her spine. "Did you hear? Another dog went missing. That makes 3 this week." A wiry man exclaimed, his eyes darting nervously to the window. Rachel's hands trembled as she poured coffee, a cold sweat forming on her brow. Dr. Dubois, with his twisted past and fading clinic, loomed as the town's shadow, the source of countless lost souls. Hadn't they whispered of families disappearing into the night, never to return? As the clock struck midnight, the diner felt like a cage. The flickering fluorescent lights cast grotesque shadows on the walls. Each flicker felt like a warning. Suddenly, a scream echoed from the street, piercing through the soft conversations. Rachel's breath hitched, fear coiling tighter around her heart. What had become of her quiet suburban life? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That night, she stumbled home, dread anchoring her steps. The air shifted, something was wrong. The calm suburban streets felt haunted, as if the wind whispered dark secrets. She unlocked her front door, and the cozy scent of her home turned sour. As she stepped inside, the lights flickered uncontrollably, then extinguished. Panic clawed in her chest. She called out for Jake, the weight of her fears pouring forth. "Mom, I'm here with Lily," Jake replied, his voice wobbly. His silhouette appeared at the threshold, eyes wide with worry. "The lights have been acting weird." They huddled together in the darkness, heartbeats echoing in the silence. A sudden draft whispered through the house. Rachel felt eyes on her. Was it just paranoia? Against her better judgment, she ventured into the basement, driven by a force she couldn't explain. Thumping against the walls, the door yielded to her touch, revealing an underworld of dusty artifacts. Each item, a hollow memory, hinted at the horrors of Dr. Dubois, who thrived on secrets buried deep. She clutched a dusty doll, its glass eyes staring into her soul. It felt wrong, tainted by the stories of those who vanished. Would Jake and Lily be next? And just as she was about to turn back, a whisper caressed her ear, chilling her to the bone. "Help me." The scream that ripped through the silence seemed to vibrate the very foundations of her home. Heart in her throat, the truth dawned on Rachel. This wasn't just about Dr. Dubois anymore. The safety she had fought for was washing away in a tide of darkness. Was her family doomed to become shadows, hovering over the fated? What mysteries lay ahead in the veil of night? Rachel's pulse raced as the whisper echoed in her ears, drowning out the shadows that lurked just beyond the fluorescent lights. "Help me." The chilling plea clung to her like a fog, thick and suffocating. She couldn't shake the feeling that the voice came from the very depths of her fears. The basement felt like a portal to some cursed realm. Jake's small hand slipped into hers, grounding her momentarily. "Mom, I'm scared." His voice trembled, a mirror of her own dread. Rachel squeezed his hand, fighting the urge to flee, but her curiosity was a beast that demanded to be fed. "Stay close," she whispered, her voice barely cutting through the darkness. She took a step deeper into the basement as the walls leaned in like spectators of her descent. Each heartbeat sent a shiver through her spine, and the air grew thick with an ancient, musty smell, like decay and despair. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her, merging with a chorus of muffled cries that stretched beyond her comprehension. "Help me, find me." For a fleeting moment, Rachel considered turning back. What if the voice belonged to something someone lost forever? Was it dangerous? But something compelled her forward. She traced the walls, fingers brushing against the rough, cold surface, until they landed on a small wooden door hidden behind a cargo of old boxes. "Mom, what is that?" Jake's fear was evident but mixed with a childlike curiosity. I don't know," she stammered, heart in her throat. As she creaked the door open, a strong gust of wind surged from the dark space beyond, billowing past her and sending a paper scatter dancing in pools of light. Inside lay a dusty room filled with forgotten relics, an array of dolls, photos, and what looked like surgical tools. But it was the flickering light at the end of the room that drew her in, illuminating a dusty mirror wrapped in layers of cobwebs. Rachel approached, heart thudding in rhythm with her ragged breaths. The surface of the mirror shimmered unnaturally. A face formed within the glass, a ghastly visage twisted in torment. It was a woman, her mouth opened in silent agony. "Help me." The words escaped, echoing through the gray stillness of the basement. "Mom, what is happening?" Jake whimpered, clenching onto Lily, who remained curiously wide-eyed, unaware of the looming shadows ahead. Before Rachel could respond, the lights flickered one last time before plunging them into darkness. The mirror's glow intensified, shining a beam brighter than a lighthouse. Then, the voice escalated into a furious crescendo of screams, echoing off the walls like a trapped storm desperate to escape. "We didn't choose this. Please, help us." The world spun, the suffocating darkness pressed against Rachel as she felt a hand on her back. Not Jake but something else. Her breath hitched as she turned, eyes darting around, and landed on Lily. The child stood frozen, staring unblinkingly at the mirror. "Lily!" Rachel shouted, but it was too late. The glow enveloped the little girl as she began to drift toward the mirror, pulled in by something unseen. "No!" Panic surged through Rachel. She lunged forward, attempting to grab her daughter but seemed to stumble through the dense air of the basement, until a cold grip around her wrist stopped her in her tracks. In the faint glow, she saw the ghastly face again, but this time, it looked less like a reflection and more like a tangible entity reaching out. "Save us," the face rasped. "Before it's too late." With adrenaline coursing through her veins, she fought against the grip, tears blurring her vision. Was this what Dr. Dubois had left behind, a prison of souls waiting for liberation? And as the grasp tightened, signaling danger beyond her comprehension, she realized her race against time had just begun. Was this night the end of normalcy for her and her family? What did Dr. Dubois truly want from her? What hidden horrors awaited beyond the mirror's surface? Rachel's heart raced, pounding like a war drum in her ears. The grip around her wrist constricted, cold-laced with an unnatural force. She could barely breathe as terror washed over her, a tidal wave crashing down over her instincts to protect her children. In the shadowed room, everything felt wrong, soulless. "Lily!" The urgency in her voice danced in the air, but the girl remained entranced by the mirror's glow. "Get away from it." Rachel reached desperately, but the unseen force pulling her daughter was too strong, too insistent. "No. Please." Rachel's voice cracked, stumbling over the panic. She frantically clawed at the air, each moment stretching painfully. Jake clutched her leg, eyes wide and terrified. "Mom! Make it stop! Make it stop!" His voice was a mixture of desperation and dread. As if the mirror sensed their fear, the face within contorted. It twisted from mournful to angry, eyes blazing with rage that sent another chill down Rachel's spine. The whispers intensified around her, "I want to help you," draining her hope with every word. "Mom!" Jake cried again, this time yanking at her shirt. "We have to go. Now." But Rachel's eyes were glued to Lily, who stood transfixed, her small body floating closer, illuminated by that malevolent light. "Lily!" She could no longer hold back the terror in her throat. Get away from the mirror. The spectral figure inside the glass shifted again, more menacing now, its mouth a gaping void that seemed to absorb the light around it. Join us, join us. It hissed, the voice mingling with the crying chorus. The sound reverberated through the basement, a soundtrack to the horror encroaching upon them. With a surge of determination, Rachel turned to Jake. Stay right here. She commanded, the strength of a lion bursting forth in her voice despite the fear. He nodded but didn't he let go of her. She surged forward, her other hand outstretched toward Lily. Lily. Rachel's heart raced as she felt a pushing from the darkness, as if it was trying to suffocate her movement. She gritted her teeth and pushed through, praying that love would triumph over this malevolent force. With every step, the whispers grew into screams. Save us. You must save us. The sound was agonizing, 1,000 souls pleading for release. The atmosphere twisted in a choking embrace, clouding her mind with confusion. What could she possibly do? As Rachel reached for Lily's arms, she felt the pull of the mirror weaken, just a fraction. With a final heave, Rachel grabbed her daughter's shoulders. Lily. Come to me. The little girl blinked, her eyes suddenly clear, as if waking from a dreadful dream. She stumbled backward, and just like that, the grip around Rachel's wrist released, leaving her breathless. But in that moment of joy, it turned to terror. The ghastly woman in the mirror thrummed with rage, the glass rippling like disturbed water. You cannot escape. You will never leave. A force exploded around them. It felt like a tempest trying to rip them apart. Lights flickered, shadows danced wildly, and the basement became an abyss, swallowing any semblance of safety. Rachel clutched Lily to her chest, shielding her with all her might. Jake, run! She barked, and without waiting for a response, she spun around, sprinting toward the door, the darkness chasing them, snarling. But behind her, the mirror shattered, sending shards of glass flying like razors. You think you can escape? The voice boomed, reverberating off the walls, shaking Rachel to her core. They burst through the door, Rachel still holding her children tight. But as she turned to slam it shut, she saw a figure in the deepened darkness, a man with hollow eyes and a diabolic smile. Welcome home, he murmured, his tone dripping with malice. Rachel's heart dropped, a new wave of dread crashing down on her. Suddenly, Jake shouted, Mom, what do we do? Rachel's mind raced. It wasn't over. They hadn't escaped, not yet. But what did he want from them? And was this nightmare even close to its end? The figure stepped closer, the dim light catching the unsettling glint in his eyes. Rachel felt herself being drawn into the depths of his gaze, a chasm of dread that threatened to swallow her whole. You shouldn't have come back, he whispered, an unsettling calmness in his tone that curled around her spine like an icy finger. Who are you? Rachel managed to choke out, each word heavy with fear. She started backing away, her protective instinct kicking in. Jake tugged at her pant leg, eyes darting between the stranger and the shadows creeping steadily closer. They'll find you, he crooned, a sickly smile twisting his lips. You can't hide from what's already inside of you. Something in her stomach churned. What do you mean? The question slipped from her lips, desperation fueling her urgency. The children pressed against her, their breaths shallow, hearts pounding in sync with hers. The man tilted his head, the smile fading as if he was losing interest. This house, it knows you. It knows your fear. It thrives on it. Lily's voice trembled, but we didn't ask for this. Her innocence pierced the tense air, momentarily distracting the man. Ah, but ignorance is such a sweet balm, he responded, stepping forward like a predator encircling its prey. You've opened the door. Now you must face the consequences. The mirror doesn't just trap souls, it reflects your own darkness back at you. With a flick of his wrist, the shadows writhed, thickening around them. Rachel blinked against the oppressive darkness, but there was something else lurking there, something familiar. Mom, I can't see. Jake whimpered, his small voice filled with pure panic. Stay close. Rachel shouted fiercely, lashing out against the dark, ready to protect her children. We will find a way out. We always do. But the man laughed, low and menacing, filling the room with a sickening echo that twisted into her bones. You think you're in control? They're waiting. Can't you feel their pull? As he spoke, images burst into her mind like flashes of lightning, her unfinished business, shadows of past regrets clawing at the edges of her thoughts. Memories she wished she could forget. Was justice just a cruel joke? Stay away from my family. Rachel screamed, the growl of her gut turning into a roar. Suddenly, the basement rattled, dust falling from the ceiling like slow rain. Something shifted behind the man, and she realized the murky shadows were not just there to frighten them, they had formed, swarming closer like a swarm of angry bees. Lily, Jake, we have to go. She grabbed their hands and yanked them tight against her. Now. But the door behind them slammed shut, a vicious bang that sent echoes spiraling. The man stepped back, his smile widening unnaturally, savoring their fear as though it were a snack. Running will only make it worse, he intoned, as if he feared nothing at all. You think you can erase the past? You think you can escape your fates? Rachel's heart raced wildly. 1,000 thoughts crammed into her head. She could still hear the screams from the mirror, a distant chorus calling to her. No. She screamed in her mind, I refuse to be trapped by this, but just when it felt like hope was slipping, the basement let out a hollow groan, vibrating through the air. Rachel turned, suddenly aware of the mirror shards scattered on the ground. Maybe they could use it. Maybe. Stand back. She yelled, gripping the edge of a jagged piece as it glinted ominously, a weapon forged by despair and anger. Before she could process what came next, the depth of the voice shattered her focus, you belong to the dark now. Ravenous shadows shot toward them, roaring like wild beasts, and Rachel's breath hitched as she blinked against the encroaching wave. But just as fear threatened to consume her, a spark ignited in her chest. Fight! Shoving her fear aside, Rachel gripped the shard higher, ready to face the horror before them, but amid the chaos, an unexpected noise rippled through the room, a haunting melody that echoed like a siren's song. What if the darkness had a heart? What if they weren't? Alone? In that moment, Rachel realized the fight wasn't just against the figure before them or the whispers in the shadows. There was a deeper struggle unraveling right beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed. Mom! Jake cried out again, his voice cutting through the shimmering haze. What are we going to do? Rachel's heart plunged. She had no idea. The walls were closing in, and time was running out. The man's laughter resounded, sinister and echoing. What will you sacrifice to uncover the truth? In that fleeting second, Rachel's mind flickered. She knew one thing: answers waited somewhere amidst the swirling chaos. But could they withstand the storm long enough to find them? The shadows engulfed them, and the darkness whispered of things yet to come. And just like that, Rachel felt the ground begin to tremble beneath her feet. What awaited them was a truth far worse than anything she feared, and the clock was ticking down to the end. The shadows seemed alive, creeping closer, wrapping around them like an insatiable noose. Rachel's grip tightened on the shard of glass, her knuckles widening in response to the suffocating dread enveloping them. She could hear Jake's whimpers, Lily's breath quickening with each moment of imminent terror. The man's gaze locked onto her, an unbroken connection filled with manic hunger. Don't you see? He tilted his head again, the darkness shifting behind him, and for a fleeting glimpse, Rachel noticed forms taking shape, tormented faces, reaching out, as if begging for release. They're coming for you, or perhaps for something you have left unfinished. Shut up! Rachel screamed, the words clawing their way out, the shard trembling in her hand. The sound echoed off the damp walls, a counterpoint to the oppressive whispers that twisted around their hearts. The walls pulsated, the melody from earlier grew louder, each note taunting, reminding her of bliss that had long since vanished. She felt a strange, magnetic pull toward the darkness, a familiarity that terrified her even more. "What do you want from us?" Rachel shouted, her voice faltering as uncertainty seeped through the cracks in her bravado. The man smiled wider, his teeth glinting like sharp knives in the dim light. "Not what I want, but what you need. You carried it with you for so long, and now it seeks release." Rachel swept her eyes around the room, trying to focus through the haze of terror. There were memories in those shadows, her past, her choices, the moments that haunted her sleep calling to her like dark allies. "Mom," Jake whimpered, clutching her arm, eyes round and terrified. "Can't we just go?" "No. We won't give in," Rachel breathed, her heart racing as desperation fueled her courage. The walls groaned in protest again, and a tremor shot through the floor. Suddenly, the glass shard felt heavy in her hand. It was more than just a weapon, an anchor tethering her to both the past and the present. "This is our chance," she whispered, though doubt lingered in her mind. "We can turn this around." A flicker of resolve ignited her core, forcing her to step forward. "You say the house knows me, knows my darkness. Then I will make it see the light." With a fierce shout, she thrust the shard toward the advancing shadows, a surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. Light exploded in a blinding flash as the glass met the dark, splintering into countless shards that danced through the air like shooting stars. For a moment, the darkness recoiled, shrieking in agony, allowing a sliver of light to spill into the basement. The man faltered, uncertainty washing over his face, but he quickly recovered. "Foolish girl!" he bellowed, the shadows regrouping around him, swirling and churning with newfound rage. Lily and Jake stood frozen, eyes wide, their innocence at war with growing fright. "Mom, what is happening?" Jake asked, his small voice barely a whisper above the menacing roar. "I don't know. I don't know." Panic bubbled in her throat, but she refused to let it take hold. Just then, their action created a ripple, a sound like low thunder grew louder, vibrating through the air as if the house itself was awakening. With each passing moment, the shadows shifted, unearthing deeper fears, memories flooding back. Rachel's father, lost and forgotten, her sister, always overshadowed, the love she lost to tragedy. All of it coiled tight within her, waiting to explode. The floor cracked beneath them, fissures zigzagging outward, swallowing the screaming echoes of the damned. In the midst of chaos, Rachel felt something change. "No!" she cried, the tremor in her voice replaced with fierce determination. "I refuse to carry you anymore." The man's sinister smile faltered, confusion flashing across his features as the shadows began to shimmer, fragments of lost souls swirling towards the light. The basement shifted beneath them, rumbling ominously as its foundations quaked, a warning of what was to come. "Sacrifice? What will you sacrifice?" he hissed, almost pleading, as panic seeped into his voice. Rachel's heart hammered inside her chest. The answer was there, just beyond reach. But before she could grasp it, the haunting melody returned, louder than ever, wrapping around her like a silk shroud, luring her into its depths. "Mom! Help!" Jake cried, his voice yanking her back from the brink, and just then, a horrifying realization dawned on her. The shadows weren't just trying to scare them, they were luring them into darkness, enticing them with promises of forgotten truths. Suddenly, the room was a cyclone of chaos, pushing against their bodies. Would Rachel uncover the truth before she lost everything? Or would she become part of the darkness that sought to consume them all? The ground trembled violently, and the shadows screeched, ready to strike as Rachel stood at the edge of her resolve, torn between the past and an uncertain future. What awaited them was a truth sealed in darkness, and in that moment, Rachel knew some sacrifices might come at too high a cost, but it was too late to turn back now, wasn't it? The ground continued to tremble, each violent shake resonating through Rachel's body, vibrating her bones as if the house itself was alive, thrashing against its captors. Lilting whispers danced in her ears, teasing, beckoning her to surrender to the shadows, to power hidden in the darkness. "Stay close. Rachel yelled, feeling the pull of despair as time stretched and warped. Jake's small hand gripped her fiercely, but she could sense his fear slipping into something darker and unsettling familiarity with the abyss that threatened to swallow them whole. The man laughed, a low, chilling sound that echoed like a death toll. "They're imprinted on your soul, little boy. You already know, don't you? The darkness calls." "No!" Rachel shouted, dragging Jake and Lily farther from the shadows that swarmed like hungry insects. With every inch they gained, they lost something precious. A fragment of themselves seemed to vanish into the clamorous void of despair around them. The walls were wet now, sweating memories that wouldn't leave Rachel alone, the bitterness of missed opportunities, the weight of unspoken words. Those faces, twisted in agony, loomed closer, beckoning for help while horror glistened in her eyes. "Stop, you have to fight it," Lily cried, her voice slipping into despair. Rachel turned just in time to see the tendrils of darkness curling around her daughter's feet, slowly binding her to this cursed ground. "You'll never escape me," the man whispered, his voice a seductive slither. He took a step forward, shadows coiling like snakes around him, almost protective. "You're all part of the darkness now, like your father and sister. They can never be free." Rachel's heart sank, and her breath caught in her throat. She realized now, the man wasn't simply a tormentor, he held the secrets of her family, their struggles imprisoned in this nightmarish realm. "What did you do to them?" she managed to spit out, her voice trembling with fire. "Everything," he replied with a smile that split his face, eyes glimmering with a sadistic joy. "They're mine now. Just like you will be." Rachel gritted her teeth and summoned every ounce of defiance she had. "No. It will end here." She hurled the remaining shards of glass, shattering one more wave of darkness as it lunged for her. Each piece of glass exploded like lightning, splattering light that forced the shadows back, shrieking in pain. The walls pulsed, writhing in agony as light fought to break through. For a moment, Rachel glimpsed a path, a way to escape. Shimmering along it were the faces of her past, her father, her sister. They cried out, but not in anguish, rather, they beckoned her forward, urging her to break the chains of darkness that burdened their souls. But Jake began to tremble violently, his small frame shaking in the grip of the shadows. "Mom, please. I'm scared." Panic wrapped around Rachel's heart, squeezing tighter. The cycle of fear threatened to engulf her once more. "Jake!" she shouted, trying to mask her fear with frantic energy. "Listen to me. Don't let it take you." Moving towards him, she felt herself slipping, pulse pounding in her ears, the darkness curling toward her like a predator sensing weakness. "Join me," the man called, his voice booming and powerful, filled with false promise. "You'll gain everything you've lost. You can never escape me. I am the truth you fear." Rachel clutched her chest, the weight of his words pressing down. "You lie!" she screamed, forcing her will against the shadowy figure, refusing to let his allure drag her down. The ground rumbled beneath her, the agony rising to a fever pitch as countless whispers reached a crescendo. As she took another step toward Jake and Lily, the air around her fractured with anticipation, the house shuddering like it was alive. "Is this what you want? A sacrifice?" she shouted, the realization slicing through her heart like a blade. "Those who sought the light instead of darkness are the ones who suffer." The man roared, anger rippling through him as if he were afraid of losing them all, and in that electrifying moment, Rachel felt it shift. The belief that light could fend off darkness, that love could save them still flickered, barely holding against the tide. But could she truly hold on to that light? Or was she destined to join the cries echoing within these walls? As the shadows lunged again, poised to clutch them all, Rachel knew the stakes had never been higher. Would the light she fought for be enough to push back the darkness, or would their fates be sealed forever in this wretched place of torment? The shadows lunged once more, a blurred mass of terror cutting through the air. Rachel's grip on Jake tightened. Fear clawed at her mind, threatening to drown her. She could feel the darkness breathing down their necks, thick and vaporous, wrapping around her like a suffocating cloak. Then a flicker caught her eye, a glimmer of light rippling through the chaos. The faces of her loved ones urged her onward, but a sinister chant from the man echoed louder. Embrace it. Surrender to your fates. No. Rachel shouted, the defiance in her voice ripping through the oppressive air. She glanced at Jake, who stood rooted to the spot, petrified under the weight of the shadowy tendrils creeping closer. Look at me, baby. Focus on the light. We have to fight. His wide eyes turned to her, filled with a wild mix of fear and trust. Mom. I can feel it, it wants me. I know, Rachel said, her heart rate pounding in her throat like a war drum. But we're stronger. We can make a choice. We choose to fight back. The man sneered, a malevolence painting his expression. You cannot fight what's a part of you, Rachel. Your family is trapped by the truth of your past. You'll never escape your own darkness. With every forceful pulse of the house, Rachel felt it shatter her resolve. Her thoughts drifted, memories of laughter and joy twisted in the tendrils of fear. But then she remembered her father's voice, his unwavering belief in the power of love. She breathed in deep, pushing through the dread. Stay with me. She shouted to Jake and Lily. We can break this together. The air crackled as they moved together, each step forward a battle against the forces chanting around them. With each small victory, the walls trembled less and the shadows shrank back. Suddenly, a blast of searing light erupted from the remnants of shattered glass she hurled earlier. Squinting, Rachel saw the darkness recoil, hissing like a wounded beast. Now. This is our chance. Rachel urged, lunging toward the flickering brightness. She pulled Jake and Lily with her, channeling her will like a beacon, but then her world shattered once more as the man raised his hand, the darkness swirling around him, forming a barrier that separated them from the light. You think you're brave? He taunted, eyes glinting with a perverse joy. What you fight is no mere shadow. It's the truth wrapped in fear. You cannot run from the darkness, you must let it in to survive. The chilling words wrapped around Rachel's heart, tightening like a noose. Was he right? What were they hiding from? Lily screamed, Mom, I can't feel my legs. The tendrils had curled around her lower body, imbuing her with a growing sense of helplessness. Don't give in. Fight it. Rachel cried, racing to her daughter's side, the fear almost paralyzing. She grasped Lily's hands, pulling with all her might. You're not losing her. We're getting out of here. Their connection flared, and a pulse of warmth surged through Rachel, igniting a spark of hope. Together they wove through the shadows, the light blazing brighter as if it drew strength from their bond. Enough. The man roared, rage rising in his chest, shadows swirling menacingly around him. The ground beneath them shook violently, splintering apart, revealing a chasm of darkness. You'll regret this defiance. Rachel's heart raced. There was no time for doubt. They took a deep breath, focused on the light, filled with their shared love. On 3. 1, 2, 3. The light surged, battling against the encroaching dread as they leapt toward it, leaving behind the suffocating darkness. Just as they crossed the threshold, the man's anguished scream echoed like a death knell, reverberating through the walls, but once free, Rachel and her children tumbled into something unexpected. Their surroundings changed in an instant. Instead of the cloying shadows of the house, they found themselves in a foggy expanse, where all things seemed possible and impossible simultaneously. Where are we? Jake gasped, eyes darting. Rachel felt the air grow cold, an unsettling realization creeping over her. The fog swirled around them, bringing with it a sense of foreboding. Mom, I can't shake the feeling, we're still being watched, Lily whispered, clinging to Rachel like a lifeline. That eye in the distance, whispers beckoned again, ghostly and seductive. The shadows they thought they fled started to rise once more, coalescing into figures shrouded in mist. Their hollow eyes locked onto Rachel, their expressions twisting into anguished pleas. Do you think you're truly free? The figures murmured, the ground beneath them trembled again, and Rachel's heart sank. Was she still trapped within the man's nightmare? What awaited them in this new haunt of mist and despair? The fog thickened, swallowing their surroundings, and with it came an unshakable sense of dread. The figures in the mist drew closer, their movements jerky and unnatural, as if they were marionettes wielded by a cruel puppeteer. Rachel tightened her grip on her children, adrenaline coursing through her veins. A whisper, almost like a breath against her ear, tickled her senses. You cannot escape. It echoed, wrapping around her like a vine, squeezing her throat. Rachel's heart raced, thrumming wildly as if trying to burst free. She refused to let fear take hold again. Stay close, she urged, pulling Jake and Lily along, scanning their ghostly surroundings for any sign of solid ground. With every step, the fog parted slightly, revealing glimpses of twisted landscapes, dark trees with gnarled branches that looked like skeletal claws reaching for them, the air thick with sorrowful wails that had no source. Mom! Jake's voice broke through her thoughts. He pointed ahead, wide-eyed. There's something there. In the distance, an ancient-looking structure emerged from the fog, its crumbling stones projecting an ominous presence. It resembled a church but felt more like a tomb. Rachel hesitated for a moment, a deep instinct urging her to steer clear. But as the shadows closed in, almost playfully reaching for their wrists and ankles, she shook off the doubts. Let us move, she commanded, increasing her pace toward the building. As they approached, flickering lights danced in the windows, shadows moving as if alive. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of lost souls yearning for release. Do you hear them? Lily whimpered, her voice almost a whisper, as if speaking too loudly would bring the shadows crashing down upon them. Yes, Rachel admitted, her throat dry. But we keep going. We can't let them stop us. Once inside, Rachel's breath caught. Rows of pews filled the space, all facing a dark altar draped in dusty cloth. Cobwebs hung like shrouds, and the air was thick with decay. Yet, the flickering lights beckoned with an uncanny warmth, inviting them to come closer. Mom, look! Jake pointed, voice barely above a whisper. A book lay open on the altar, pages flipping as if stirred by an unseen wind. It writhed with an energy that drew Rachel nearer. As she stepped forward, the room pulsed with a life of its own, the atmosphere growing heavier. She reached out, her fingers brushing against the brittle pages. Words began to form, tumbling out of the mist, coiling around her mind and heart. This is your legacy. The voice echoed, shaking her bones. Rachel's heart thundered louder than before, panic clamping down. What do you mean? What is this place? Embrace it, or suffer, came another whisper, louder now, filling the room with cold malice. Shadows swirled closer around them like a noose tightening for a prey. She pulled Jake and Lily back, stepping away from the altar, but the whispers grew louder, drowning out reason. Your family's sins bind you here. You cannot escape your fate. The shadows lunged again, wrapping around Jake for a split second, and she yanked him back just in time, terror etched across her face. An overwhelming surge of desperation fired within her. No! Rachel screamed, a force of defiance roaring from deep inside. You do not own us. But the mists swirled faster, merging into a singular point of darkness, forming a figure that towered over them. Eyes like black pits bore into her, promising despair. You think you can defy your past? Face the truth. With each word, Rachel felt the weight of all the nightmares she tried to bury rise to the surface. The echoes of the shadows entwined with her own regrets, her fears, the darkness she had hidden away. Mom! Jake's voice broke through the swell of chaos, trembling. What if they're right? No, Jake! She shouted, panic seeping back into her voice. We have to believe in the light. Remember our love, our strength. As the figure stretched forward, reaching for them, Rachel's mind raced, seeking a way out, a way to fight back. The shadows threatened to engulf them entirely. She focused again on the light that had guided them before, willing it to break through the suffocating darkness, but where was it? Where did they find that light again amidst all this hopelessness? Just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, the air shifted around them, a low vibration humming in the depths of the fog. "There, Mom!" Lily cried, pointing. Beyond the figure, a faint luminescence flickered, pulsing in time with her heartbeat. "Do we go?" Jake's voice quavered with uncertainty. Rachel's heart raced. Could they trust it? Or was it another trap? The shadows hissed, their whispers growing desperate as the light flickered once more. Was this a chance, or another illusion taunting them? Would stepping into that light bring salvation or doom? Rachel inhaled sharply, steeling herself for the impossible choice ahead. Together, she commanded, squeezing her children's hands tightly. "On 3, 1, 2. But a terrible howl erupted, drowning her words as the figure lunged, shadows flicking out like hungry serpents. 3. And then all went dark. Dark silence swallowed them, wrapping Rachel and her children in a suffocating void. Time felt warped, seconds stretched into eternity. Fear clawed at Rachel's insides, a riot of voices echoing through her mind. What would she do now? She couldn't see, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. All she felt was the pounding of her heart, the frantic beats mirroring the thoughts racing through her head. Suddenly, a chilling whisper cut through the darkness, sharper than glass. "You're lost, Rachel, forever." It slithered through the air, each word dripping with malevolence. "Mom." Jake's voice trembled in the abyss. "I can't see anything." "I'm here." Rachel shouted back, clenching her children's hands tighter. It was a lifeline, something to anchor her amidst the fear consuming her. "We will find a way out." A flicker of light emerged from the confusion, glowing fainter than a candle in a storm. Instinctively, Rachel moved toward it, with Lily and Jake following behind, fear guiding their steps. Shadows twisted around them, whispering lies, threats, taunts from a life they never lived but felt burdened by. The light flickered stronger, revealing the contours of their surroundings, a vast, empty hall adorned with rotting tapestries and murals that depicted nightmarish scenes of despair. The faces painted on the walls seemed to cry out for help, mouths twisted in silent screams. Rachel's skin crawled as she caught glimpses of the horrors captured forever in those hues of darkness. As they moved deeper, the echo of their footsteps bounced off crumbling stone, amplifying their terror with each resonance. "What is this place?" Lily's voice quaked as she restricted her gaze to the ground, afraid to look up for fear of what she might see. "I don't know," Rachel replied, fighting to speak steadily. "But we have to keep moving." The walls inched closer, thickening with shadows that lunged at them from every corner. Whispers crescendoed into a racket, marching in rhythm with the desperate thump of Rachel's heart. "You were never meant to escape. Your blood is here," they laughed, this sinister entity wrapped in malice. "Shut up." Rachel spat, her voice louder than the cries surrounding them, desperately pushing against the encroaching darkness. She could feel the weight of eyes on her, 1,000 souls disdainful of her presence, but then, the flickering light pulsated, radiating warmth, offering a promise. "That's it." She urged her children, adrenaline surging as she pulled them toward it. They stumbled through the thickening shadows that brushed against their skin like cold fingers grasping to hold them back. "Mom, I see something." Jake shouted, his eyes wide, breaking through the blanket of despair surrounding them. A narrow path opened before them, paved in a glow. "It's leading somewhere." "Then let us go." Rachel exhaled, a spark of hope lighting within her chest. As they rushed forward, whispers turned to screams. "You'll regret this. You cannot outrun the sins of your ancestors." The shadows amplified their moans, curling around them like a serpent. The corridor narrowed until they were forced through a tight squeeze, shadows clawing at their heels, desperate to bring them back. Rachel's breath quickened. They had to escape, had to break free from this cursed legacy. With one final push, they stumbled into a vast chamber bathing in radiant light. Its brilliance momentarily blinded them, and when their eyes adjusted, they were met with unnerving sights. Ghostly figures floated before them, their faces twisted in anguish. "Help us please," they wailed hauntingly, falling to their knees. Rachel's heart sank. These were not just lost souls, they were faces she recognized, the legacy revealed, each one tied to her own bloodline, shadows of her ancestors' sins pulled forward into this realm. "No," she gasped, stepping back, thoughts spiraling into a whirlwind of panic. "What do they want?" "Mom, they're scared like us," Jake exclaimed, both horrified and heartbroken, realizing the pain laid bare before them. "They want revenge, justice," a voice loomed from the corner, dark and seductive, echoing against the stone walls. The figure stepped forward, cloaked in shadows, a familiar face, her own grandmother, eyes hollow and sorrowful. "You have come to inherit what is yours." Before Rachel could comprehend, the chamber quaked, the light flickering as the spirits surged toward them, filling the space with their mournful pleas. But no. Rachel could not let this be their fate. Not her children. Not while she had breath in her body. "Run!" Rachel screamed, adrenaline surging once more. She yanked Jake and Lily, her heart pounding loud enough that she feared it might explode. Yet, chaos erupted around them, shadows gripping to prevent their escape, clawing at her skin like an infernal storm. As the cries of the lost rang louder, darkness tangled their limbs, and the path to safety receded further away. Rachel's heart raced harder, desperation bubbling within her. "Don't stop," she urged, her voice ragged. "Don't look back." But as they sprinted, Rachel felt a tug at her thoughts, a memory long buried resurfacing, a truth she had hidden. She had to face it. Could she expose the sins of the past without losing everything? In that moment, surrounded by chaos, she understood. The shadows were not just consuming them, they were binding them to the truth. Was it possible to defy a legacy steeped in terror? They reached a door ahead, ancient and decrepit, a band of light breaking through the cracks. Hope flickered just beyond it. Rachel grasped the handle, the icy metal biting into her skin, but a voice, low and menacing, hissed from the depths of the shadows. "Open it, and everything will change forever." She paused, a fatal choice pressing against her chest. What lay on the other side? Rachel inhaled deeply, the weight of destiny heavy as she turned the handle, uncertainty clawing at her heart. What awaited them in that forsaken light? Would it bring redemption or ruin? Rachel's hand trembled on the icy doorknob, a palpable fear vibrating through her palms. But then she felt a tugging at her heart, the warmth of her children behind her anchored her to a fading hope. "We can't go back," she whispered, determination swelling like a tide within her. She turned the handle, the door creaked open, spilling forth a blinding light that pierced through the thick mists, scattering the shadows that had chased them tirelessly. It felt like stepping into another realm, a sanctuary breaking through layers of despair. Rachel urged Jake and Lily forward, trembling fingers intertwining with her children's. A vast expanse opened up before them, an endless field stretching under a sun that bathed everything in healing warmth. The cries of the damned faded behind them, replaced by the gentle rustling of grass and the distant chirping of birds. Rachel could feel the pulse of life enveloping them, pushing back the darkness that had suffocated them for so long. "Where are we?" Jake gazed in wonder, eyes wide as he took in the bright blue skies and the vibrant colors of wildflowers dancing in the gentle breeze. I think it's a place of healing," Rachel replied, her heart pounding against her ribcage like a drum celebrating their escape. She turned, glancing back through the doorway. The shadowy figures that haunted them were gone, swept away by the cleansing light. They had made it. But a familiar voice whispered in her mind, tugging at her consciousness, "You're free from the shadows, but what of the truth?" It wasn't just the haunting shadows, but the reality of her past that still loomed large and unyielding in her heart. "No," she scoffed, shaking her head. "I want to let you in again." She pressed forward, her children at her side, but the nagging voice grew louder, hauntingly seductive, like a siren's call promising reconciliation. Mom, what if this place isn't real? Lily asked, taking hold of her hand tighter, her wide eyes glistening with a mix of wonder and fear. Trust your heart, Rachel urged them, squeezing the little girl's hand. The love we have can conquer anything. As they ventured deeper into this dazzling expanse, the landscape changed. Each step brought bright colors and new scents, a testament to the life's potential that lay ahead. This was the path granting them a second chance. But looming questions remained. Rachel could feel them lingering like shadows just outside their field of vision. What about the people we left behind? She murmured, her stomach twisting. Those lost souls, tethered to her family's history, would they ever find peace? With that thought, she knew the truth would always be part of her journey. Not every wound could heal without acknowledging the pain that came before. We need to keep moving forward, she told her children. But we can't forget the past either. We must honor what we've learned from it. But how? Jake asked, confusion seeping into his voice. By embracing our courage, Rachel explained. By reaching out to those we care for and finding a way to help those trapped in darkness. Just then, the mist from their old existence started to swirl around them again, not threatening this time, but inviting an acknowledgement of what once was. Figures started to emerge, faces familiar yet framed by sadness. Among them stood her grandmother, hollow-eyed but softened, a sense of understanding in her gaze. Remember us, she said, her voice a gentle echo. We were lost, but you are the light we needed to guide us home. Rachel's breath hitched. You can be free, she said, stepping closer. You just have to let go of your pain. A hush fell over the gathered spirits, their whispering cries shifting towards a resonating hum and collective agreement sparking life in Rachel's heart. They were tethered to her by blood but also by the burden of what had been left unresolved. Together, she implored, locking eyes with the ethereal figure of her grandmother. Let us face this and rise into the light. As she opened her arms wide, the brilliant shade of light swirled around her. She stepped back, feeling Jake and Lily beside her, their youthful energy blending into her own. Slowly, the spirits began to lift, one by one, floating towards the light like moths drawn to a flame. The warmth grew intense, flooding Rachel's senses until it became almost unbearable. This is it. She shouted. We can go on. We can be free. 1, 2, 3. As her voice soared, the spirits rushed toward the light, a flash of brilliance igniting the air around them. A glorious sound erupted, an uplifting melody ringing through the field, each note a promise of acceptance. The light surged forth, clearer and more vibrant than anything she had ever known. The darkness receded behind them, the shadows evaporating into the ether, no longer a part of their story. They stood firm in the glaring light, hand in hand, hearts united, feeling lightness begin to reclaim the spaces once filled with despair. Back in Maplewood, a hush fell over the old house, its moans diminishing as silvery dawn washed through the windows. Dr. Dubois' ghosts faded into obscurity, lost amid the whirl of time and acceptance. Rachel, Lily, and Jake stood rooted, freedom blossoming all around them like a rose bursting forth in spring. Every rustle of life around them felt like a promise fulfilled, a new beginning, a legacy turned toward joy rather than sorrow. They could finally breathe, the past reconciled with love, and the darkness reduced to shadows dispersing within a soft smile. So, where do we go now? Jake asked, glancing up at Rachel. Rachel knelt down, enveloping Jake and Lily in a warm embrace. Wherever the light leads us, she replied with a smile, feeling the warmth of their love fold around them, knowing they would always find their way. And in that moment, Rachel understood they had conquered not just the horrors of the past but emerged stronger, carrying their legacy forward into a world waiting to be lived. Together, they stepped into the future, hearts alight and undaunted. Hope was behind them and before them, guiding their way. Now is your moment to support the story you just experienced. You need to subscribe now so you won't miss any exclusive tales we've got coming up. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm and get more stories into the world. Flood the comments section with your reactions, thoughts, and theories about this epic conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. This is the moment to show your support.